Hey guys, Brian Castro here from Better Chess Training. And in today's video, I'd like to share some instructive points from my round one game from the Kings Island Open. I played in the under 2100 section and um, got to play an interesting opponent in my first round, or at least his name is interesting. In this tournament, they actually texted you the round assignments. And I was very shocked and pleased in a way to find out that my first round opponent was Robert J. Fischer. Uh, Not the famous Robert J. Fischer, of course, but I just thought it was very cool to have to play him in the first round. I actually have uh, this Robert J. Fischer has had games, I believe, featured in Chess Life, which is the U.S. Chess magazine for the United States Chess Federation. So I have seen um, seen him before and knew he existed. He's rated about 2050, or he's a USCF expert. And so I was looking forward to this game. So let's go through it. My opponent had the white pieces, and he started out here with D4. So we know it isn't the famous Bobby Fischer already. Knight to F6 and knight to F3. But here I play D5, and there's a lot of ways this can go. This can go into like a Kali with E3. It can transpose into like a Queen's Gambit with C4, in which case I was planning E6. And or it could go into a London with bishop to F4. Well, my opponent here played C3, and this is not a totally unusual move, but it's actually pretty interesting because it opens it allows some flexibility because from here, depending on how black plays, white can still have these options of e3, bishop to f4 going into a London, or even going into like a Torre attack with bishop to g5. So with this, there's a few ways to respond. Um, I played e6, which is the one of the most popular ways. The other way that I was thinking after the game was maybe c5, because this would transpose directly into some of my preparation here. After, say, a move like bishop to f4 into the London, then I can go straight into my London preparation like so. But this didn't happen in the game. Instead, we go back. I played e6, and bishop to f4 is played. Now, I have studied this move before, and again, a few ways that can be played here. Most popular in this position is bishop to d6, just challenging this bishop right away. Uh, Another way here is c5, which is more in line with my repertoire. Uh, e3 was played, and here knight to c6 is natural. So this is what happened in the game, and then knight b to d2. Now, the mistake I made here, it's not really a mistake, but just kind of not exactly what I wanted here. I looked at my repertoire database and saw that normally here I should be looking to play bishop to d6, challenging this. But in some of the other lines in the London, uh, I usually play queen to b6. Let me show you that how that might work here, because the difference is actually the first instructive point. Let's say we go into the London via this move order. After this move here, queen to b6 would be the normal move I would play, and here normally queen to b3 protecting. And now I have this move, c4, forcing either to trade, which is one of the ways of doing it, in which case I get this open A file as well as this B pawn break potentially. And the other way is by playing queen to c2. Now, in this case, we have a tricky move here, as you see here with this arrow with bishop to c5, because of course, if the queen takes, now I get to take here, and I'm going to grab this rook. So in these games, after bishop to f5, the queen is forced back to c1, and then after a few moves such as e6, knight b to d2, bishop to e7, bishop to e2. And then castles, we could see here that black has a very good game and eventually can, after moving the queen, put some pressure down the b file, for example, as well as maybe grabbing the two bishops by attacking this bishop with, say, a move like knight to h5. So that would be sort of how I would normally see this in the London, but there's a big difference here in the way it was played because, let's get to the game position. Here, although this move, again, is not a blunder, a tactical blunder or anything like that, I had to change my mindset in that the position is quite different. And then the main difference here is that this e-pawn is now on e6. So I no longer have this bishop to f5 resource that I had before. But, so actually when I played this, and this again was, maybe nerves with, this is the first over-the-board game or tournament, big tournament I played since 2019. So I'm going to guess that nerves were a part of it. Also, I've just been about 7 hours to get here. Here, queen to, after queen to b3, I kind of automatically played c4. There's a lot of things I could have done here instead. I could have just waited, played, and just kept developing here with bishop to e7, followed by castling, for example. That would have been more in line with the master game databases. But by playing c4, strategically, it's a little bit of a mistake because I don't have this tactical nuance anymore with bishop to f5 to get that acceleration and development. But also, it now releases some of this tension. So now white is the player who mainly has pawn breaks here with e4 or b3, which we'll see later in the game. And that caused me a lot of trouble. I mean, the way it is, this position, again, is not losing for black, but it's more of the underlying thought process that went behind it, which was the mistake. So after queen to c2, and again, I just thought he was going to exchange and then I would be fine. But after queen to c2, I no longer have bishop to f5. So I played knight to h5, which actually is a decent move. Again, one of the themes here is trying to grab the two bishops here with by trading off here. He plays bishop to g3, and after knight takes g3, h takes g3, my position is okay. It's not great, but I think white is only a tiny bit better. And after moves, my main issue here is this light square bishop, which we'll see in the game. And there's only been one master game with this actual position. It was actually won by black, but it was a couple 2200s, and bishop to d7 was played here. I don't think that's necessarily the best move. I don't think it's a bad move. But here I played a move, again, playing against this e4 break. I played f5. And here is kind of where things start to unravel for me. Because this move, it weakens a little bit. So you can see here, it doesn't do anything to help my light square bishop develop. And it's just kind of a weakening move. At some point, white can maybe think of g4. And of course, and if he ever trades these pawns off this way, then the e4 break will be back on as well. Well, my opponent played what I thought was a good move here, b3, already attacking against this pawn chain. I took, and the reason I took here, because I didn't want him to take here, because this would be very weakening in terms of these breaks, because the whole point of playing this idea is to prevent this e4 break. Okay, I took, he takes back, and now white's got the a file. So if we look at this position, I think, in analyzing this, white has to be a little bit better. Because this bishop is just going to be bad pretty much the rest of the game, unless I can somehow organize an e5 push, in which case I have other issues with weak pawns. But here I tried to get my development going, bishop to e7, plays bishop to e2. I'm thinking maybe he's going to castle, but he doesn't. He does have this nice rook here. You can see how these rooks are just doing fine down the A and H files. Bishop to f6, Now just covering some squares here, trying to restrain this knight a little bit. And here, knight to h4. So this move, the idea, the tactical threat is here, knight to g6. And I saw this and I really was a little worried. One option I had was to castle. Let's take a look at that. And actually, this probably would have been one of the better ways to handle it, because even though it looked to me, it looked very scary, which is why I ended up not doing it. But the fear was a move like g4. But if I had calculated a little bit, we see here the knight is in the way, so he can't do anything right away. If I take, now unveiling this queen, he can't really do too much, because this knight now is in the way, and it can't really return anytime too soon. Let's say he takes, well, he can't, it's going to take him some time. If he goes here, now I have e5. And the idea is if he tries to return back here with the knight, then, of course, this bishop was attacked because of that discovery. So if, let's say, he takes, then I can take back. And then now let's say he moves his knight back, then I just close off the position. Let's say after he takes here, I take back here, or white takes back here. Then after the knight takes, this knight's going to be able to defend. We've got some pressure down this way as well, and it's just not going to work out. You know, if the knight goes here, for example, I just take, and if he takes back, I could even play a move like g6, and now black is doing just fine. He's defended pretty well. He got rid of all of his bad pieces, and I think black is doing quite well here. We can see here he's attacking this target. So this would have been a better way to go in the game had I castled. But instead, I played a move that, and again, it's hard to, I don't want to dwell too much, and I can't really figure out why I did it. I think I just wanted to eliminate the threat and try to struggle on. But I get rid of my best piece for perhaps one of his misplaced pieces here. And he does well here. He takes back with the rook, keeping this line open. Going back to this position, as I mentioned, castling would have been great. There's another option which is a little sharper and seemed a little scary to me, and it is this move here with g5. And part of it is I wasn't quite sure what to do. I did consider this, but what to do if you played this, because obviously I can't, well, actually, I didn't see this, but I guess I could just take, because at first I saw that he would be taking here, but what I didn't see in my calculations is that the bishop is now protecting. So g5 actually would have also been a good move, and because this is now impossible, and then he goes back here, and then I could have, in the computer analysis, a few good moves here, but I could have just played my queen back here, and this says that the position is basically about even, maybe slightly better for white, which I wouldn't disagree with. Okay, getting back to the game. Of course, I took, which was a terrible mistake. Takes back with the rook. Here I play bishop to d7, and I'm trying to survive at this point, I think. Bishop to h5 check, and I quickly played king to e7. The idea is now my rooks are connected. So here he plays bishop to e2, and actually this was a great move by him, because my intention was, let's say he played something else, and I'm just going to make a move here. Let's say he played something like b4. My intention was to play g5, forcing this rook back, and then to play g4, now trapping this bishop. So that was actually what I was considering during the game. So, and I thought that would have been pretty good. Maybe not winning per se, but a pretty decent move. But he saw that and played bishop to e2. Just retreating his bishop. Again, he's got a slight edge. Maybe not 100% winning But let's say he, for example, if he castles over here, doubles up over here, I think that I might be in some trouble. Okay, rook a to c8, just trying to get some activity going. And here he plays queen to b2. And of course, the idea here is that maybe I can get some activity here with something like knight to b4 or something like that. He plays queen to b2. Here I play a6, just sort of blunting this rook. And then here he plays queen to a3 check. So you can see what my main problem is in this game is that all of his pieces are becoming very active. They're all getting some open lines. And my main issue is that this bishop is terrible. And basically I'm not able to activate it for the whole game. All right, king to f7 is played. Okay, here he plays f4. And, you know, to be honest, in this position, I actually didn't think I was doing horribly. I mean, I felt I was worse. But I thought if I could somehow hold out, and maybe his initiative would kind of fizzle out. So I play h6, just sort of, again, blunting this rook, preventing him from doing anything. And now he just brings his knight back in. Knight to f3. King to f6. This is another position where I didn't think I maybe played the best move. Here, I think I should have maybe brought my queen back. And this is analyzing with my coach as well as with the chess engine here. And the whole idea is that now this queen can sort of combat some of the, maybe try to trade off queens or just try to blunt White's activity here. Again, the reason why is that this is not necessary because this move, again, is not able to be played. And if he ever tries to bring his knight here, let's look at this real quick. Let's say I do play queen to d8, and then he plays here, then all I have to do is take, and then after he takes back, it's actually black who is in the driver's seat. And the position has actually changed quite a bit because now black is the one who has some weaknesses. For example, queen to g5. And here, for example, he's king to d2 here. Then I'm just taking on c3. And if he plays king to d2, here I could actually play rook takes c3 is actually very interesting here because he can't exactly take. If he takes here, then I'm grabbing here. Actually, maybe I'm not winning that bishop. The bishop can block, but then after this check, he's going to be lost. So the king, if the king goes back, I'm going to take this with check. So you can see here that even though white is better, I should have maybe looked for more opportunities. Instead, here I play king to f6, and there's no real huge reason for that because even if he does go here and I take, now he's taking back with check, it gives him some time. Again, it's probably not a good move for him to play it there, but it doesn't. This king to f6 doesn't really do anything, I guess is my point. Okay, he plays king to f2, and his idea is to bring his rook over. And now I make the big blunder of the game, is g5. And this was just a pure oversight. Okay, let's go back and see what should I have played or what could I have played. And if we look at this, again, white is definitely better. But again, queen to d8 with this idea of maybe playing queen to e7 is still a decent move because it in these types of positions, I'm sort of waiting. And it gives me something to do in terms of trying to fight back. And I think this is where psychologically I think I was just lashing out with this g5 move. Because what I thought is that he would take, and then I would take, and then we'd trade rooks maybe. But the mistake here that I miscalculated, which is pretty bad, pretty poor miscalculation, was rook takes h6 check. And here there's a combination. Of course, I saw it after rook takes h6. F takes G5 check, forking the king and the rook. I come back over, and he takes. And at this point now, um, the game's about over. I played on for a few more moves. Let me show you those. I took on H6. Here I thought of maybe playing rook to H8, but this becomes a little problematic as well, and I think he could just pile up with, say, rook to H1 or something like that. So I took back. He brings his rook over with check, of course, which isn't good. And here, my opponent played an excellent move. Queen to C1. And his idea is just to play E4 here, bringing his queen in with a devastating effect. So I played queen to D8, trying to cover some squares. But after E4, I really looked for a way that I could take this pawn, but it doesn't quite work out. In fact, at this point, it is very difficult to find anything that works. For example, D takes E4. He's got queen to H6 check. So I played queen to F6, and I kind of saw the following coming up, but I really just couldn't think of anything better. E5, queen to G6, knight to H4. So I saw this, but again, I couldn't really think of anything I could have played. And here, it kind of just fell apart. Queen to H7, queen to G5 check, king to F7, and then bishop to H5 check. And here, I took the opportunity to resign. So I have to say, this game was disappointing as a first game, but it was kind of neat playing Robert J Fischer. Also, I did have a friend who came with me into the tournament, a fellow YouTuber and my training partner, Stacia Pugh, and she also created some videos based on her experience at the Kings Island Open. So I'll put the links to those in the description below, and I encourage you to check those out because she had some really nice play and a few nice games during the tournament. I do have more games to come, so it does get a little better from here a little later in the tournament. But hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I have to admit, I had been procrastinating in creating the video. It was kind of painful going over the game. Saw a lot of moves that if I were playing the game online, I don't think I would have made. But when you play in a tournament like I did, um, it it really helps to point out your weaknesses, and sometimes those are technical chess weaknesses, and I had a lot of those. But also they points out maybe um, things to work on mentally and psychologically with regard to how you handle pressure situations. So really thought it was a great experience overall, and so I hope to create a video for each of the games I played at the Kings Island Open, partly inspired by my friend and training partner Stacia Pugh. Again, and as I mentioned before, I will be putting links to her games from the Kings Island Open as well, and I hope that you guys will check that out. In any case, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon.